This book is such a hidden gem if you like faded fae romantasy kind of stories. There's dragons, there's vampires, there's werewolves. There's everything you need, and it's so underrated. You're about to watch me read Shadows of Fire by Brenda K. Davies, book number 1 in the Shadow Realm series. I think I have pretty high expectations for this book, especially knowing that there are going to be typos in it. I believe that it is self-published, so I expect there to be a few of those here and there, but because this book was recommended to me by my colleague who's recommended some really good books to me, and she devoured the entire series. There's 11 books right now, so yeah, she devoured them all in like a week, I swear. And she stands by this series, and her recommendations are always really good. So I have high expectations because of that, and it really just sounds up my alley, like vampires, fae, romance, all that good stuff. So from my understanding, this book follows our main character Lexi, who I think is a half vampire, and then there's also Cole, who's like dark fae. And so for whatever reason, Lexi gets invited to like the Shadow Realms, and that's where she meets Cole and like a bunch of other, I guess, like dark fae and stuff. And then she kind of has like those feelings, and she's like, oh, this guy's like really hot. And then she goes back to her regular like realm where she lives, and then something happens and Cole ends up coming back there. And that's pretty much all I know. I honestly don't really know the whole plot. I just know that it involves 2 really cool kind of fantasy creatures and romance, and that's pretty much all it takes to sell me on a book, to be honest. So yeah, I'm excited. There's gonna be like, there's a bunch of different stuff in this book, like dragons and witches and, like I mentioned, fae, all that stuff. I imagine there's probably gonna be much more, but it just sounds really cool. So without further ado, let's read Shadows of Fire. This is book 1 of the Shadow Realm series. I'm a little bit more than 100 pages into Shadows of Fire, and here are my thoughts so far. This book gets straight into the action. There's no like a million pages of then stuff happens. It instantly starts like, oh, here's the letter to go into like this other realm, and just bam, it goes in. And I think this book is doing a pretty decent job of kind of giving you the history and what has happened and the relations between the different kind of species in this world. So there are like werewolves, which are called like lycans, so maybe that's a different type of werewolf that I'm not aware of, but now I am aware of. There's of course witches, there are dragons, fae, vampires, all that beautiful good stuff in this world. And the story is basically happening right after a war just finished, which I think is a really interesting kind of way to start. And they're all just celebrating the end of the war, but there's still like tensions and a bunch of other stuff that's happened. And so it's like, this is the aftermath of the war. And it was that immortals basically were tired of hiding from humans. And so the humans didn't even realize that immortals and things like this weren't just like fairy tales or like mythology or they're not like myths or anything. And so these dragons just show up, burn everything, and the humans are like, what just happened? And so humans are completely freaked out. They don't know who to trust, and they just lost pretty much their entire world, their homes, their families because of this war. And so it's a really interesting kind of premise, because our main character like lives in that world, because that's where all the vampires were kind of like thrown off to, because the vampires had this war with the witches, and there's like a really complicated history with all of this. And so it's interesting to be able to see from our main character, who's half human, half vampire, her perspective growing up with humans, and now watching them really just trying to survive a war that they didn't even know like existed. And so that's really cool. I'm really enjoying all of that. Our main character is Lexi, and our other main character is Cole, and he's dark fae, which is different than light fae. So dark fae, they basically get their power by doing really spicy things, and that's how they get their power. Whereas the light fae, they get their power from joy, and I think that that's really cool as well. And so it's just like there's different types of fae, they do different things, and it's cool. And so it really does seem like kind of like fated lovers, that instant like attraction, that instant like, oh, like I'm really suddenly like kind of obsessed with this person, but not in like the, oh, I'm gonna fall in love immediately, but more in the like, it's given mate vibes, which is weird, right? Because it's like, I don't usually like the fall in love like within seconds vibes, but I love mates, which is the exact same thing, but it's like magical. So for some reason it's fine with me. So it's pretty cool. I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about Lexi and Cole's characters, because right now they do feel very surface level in terms of characters. So Lexi, she lost her dad. She's a little bit like, I don't know. I don't really know that much about her, to be honest. Like, she just feels like a general kind of character. So I'm excited to learn more about her, her desires, her thoughts, her weaknesses, her strengths. Like, what does she really care about in the world? And the same for Cole. We're getting a little bit of information about them, a little bit about their backstories and stuff, which is cool. And just the fact that these characters are all immortals, so they're really, really, really old. And so they're used to taking things really, really slow and just kind of living life, not feeling like they have like being crushed by time. And so it's interesting to see that our main character hasn't really done that much, because she was just kind of vibing this whole time. Whereas Cole, he was actually part of the war. And what's interesting is that in this war, we thought maybe that was the main part of the war, but it actually seems to all tie into this like lord guy. And the throne basically corrupts anybody who sits on it. And it kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones, like with the Targaryens and stuff. And so basically this king has lost his mind, and he was like, well, I'm tired of us hiding. I'm gonna send my dragons out to go kill a bunch of humans, because he's basically in charge of like the dragons. Anybody who sits on the throne has the dragons. Again, a bit of Game of Thrones vibes there. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing like where it's gonna go and how the rest of the story is gonna progress. And I feel like a lot has already happened, and the pacing of this book is really fast and really good. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward, hoping that these characters develop a little bit more, but I really do like the setting and just how everything is. So I will update you when I'm about halfway through this book, so I will see you then. I'm now a little bit more than halfway through Shadows of Fire, and I'm still enjoying the story, but it's definitely slowed down a little bit more. So the beginning was very action-packed. There was a lot of great world building and introduction to everything that's happening. But now it's kind of slowed down a little bit, but it's kind of teaching you a little bit more about the two main characters, Lexi and Cole. Now, I think I really do like Cole's character. I think that he's pretty interesting. He's a sweetheart. I mean, it's honestly like not hard for me to like fall for the the main male protagonist in books. It's like, if he's sexy, if he's like really nice and like gentle and sweet when it comes to interactions with the person that they like, versus like being all tough and like, I'm gonna destroy everybody around me. Like, that's honestly like, that's all it takes for me, to be honest. And then Lexi's character, I'm hoping to see a little bit more development. I know that there are 11 books at the moment, so I'm really hoping to see more development for Lexi's character, because right now she feels very just like surface level, very basic. She likes to read, and that's pretty much the extent of her character, and she's nice. So I want to learn more about her, and I think that there is potential, a lot of potential for developing her further. So I'm looking forward to really hoping that that does happen, because I think that will make the story stronger. But everything else I really do like. I was trying to explain, though, the concept of the dark fae to my boyfriend, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to tell you about this book. Yeah, trying to explain that is really weird, because it's like, it's like, this guy's like part werewolf, but he's also like a dark fae, also known as like a spicy fae. Like, he needs to do the spicy thing so he can get his power. And like, it sounds really weird, but honestly, like, it's good stuff. I think this book is really creative, and it feels really unique in a lot of different ways as well. It's like a breath of fresh air, because it is different. It has those commonalities, right, that regular fantasy stories have, the regular tropes and stuff, but I really do think that there's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening, especially like the interesting like kind of illusion about like this lord and his dragons, and he seems to be the kind of like the big bad guy that we're going to learn more about. So I'm definitely hoping that as I continue to read, we're going to get more towards like maybe like more of that action kind of stuff that we learned about earlier, but this part, at least like the majority of the book right now, and I imagine maybe like the last of it as well, is just kind of like reinforcing the relationship and getting the characters to know each other a little bit more before proceeding with the story, which I think is interesting because I actually really like when characters get together and then they like tackle the adventures and like the scary stuff together instead of like that happening naturally. Like, I don't not like that, but I think that they're both really cool kind of possibilities, if that makes sense. So I will continue to read Shadows of Fire, and I will update you probably when I finish the book, or like when I get a little bit more towards like the end, but it seems that I kind of update you more towards like when I actually do finish the book. So whenever my next update is, I will see you there. I just finished this book, and that is how you should end all books. The ending of this book made me have to buy the second book immediately, and I have to wait 2 days for it. And I'm honestly so glad. Like, it was a little bit slow in the in the middle part when like Lexi and Cole are getting to know each other a little bit more. However, the payoff that comes before and after that is so worth it. Oh my. I love that. Like, it's such like a rich world. It's like, oddly enough, it's like kind of unique as well. Like, I don't really know how to explain it, but like I had a blast with this book. I especially loved all of the different fantasy creatures all in one world. The world was like rich. It was really well thought out, in my opinion. I really liked the Lord as like a villain. I think that having someone in a position of power who's not right in the head is always just like so fascinating to me, and you never know what they're gonna do, and I think that's really fun because it's so unexpected, the kind of like things that they do because they have their reasons why they think they should do that, and then you're like, that's actually not a good thing to do, but like to them it makes sense. I love those kind of villains so much. I really am hoping that Lexi's character develops more because I can see her becoming this really cool, like strong character. She's kind of given Poppy vibes from Blood and Ash mixed a little bit with Feyre, and I'm thinking that within next book, hopefully she's gonna learn how to fight and she's gonna become like really strong and kind of like all that. Like, she definitely does stand up to people and she does help people. I do want to see more of like her vampire aspect. I get that she was purposely like, she was sheltered and so she was treated more like a human than anything else. So I'm really hoping to see more development on her end and just more about her character in general. Cole's character, I really like what happened in the last chapter there. That was honestly really unexpected in my opinion, like for Cole. And I was like, I like where that's going. It kind of gave Cass vibes, not gonna lie. I love Cass. And so yeah, I think that was really cool. Although I do find that Lexi has better chemistry with Oren than she does with Cole. Maybe it's because I just love bickering. I don't know. But yeah, I'm interested to see if that's something or not, or if that's just like me being a sucker for bickering. So yeah, I'm really happy that I read this book. So I will be awarding Shadows of Fire a total of 4 stars. It was almost like a high 3.5 stars when I was at that kind of like middle portion where it felt like it was dragging on a little bit too much. But that ending, it just instantly boosted it, rounded it to that 4-star level. Yeah, I really love the action of this book. I think that it's handled really well. The author definitely has talent in writing, but I think that I've recognized a few aspects where it could be improved. But knowing that there's like no editor on this, it's super impressive that this is like just the author, and maybe, I don't know, maybe like one of her friends or family members or something kind of proofread it as well. But yeah, it's really impressive. I would love to see like what an editor can do to really help enhance her craft, or when I read more of her books, like when I'm going to read the second one, the difference is going to be from the first one. But I'm definitely really impressed with that, and I love it when people write books and they self-publish them, and just I think in terms of like rooms for improvement for write-in, one of the things, I actually found the spicy scenes to be a little bit more rushed than I expected. I think, to me, it felt like the author was a little bit shy right in that scene. Maybe I just read a lot of spicy books and I'm just like used to them being a bit more in depth, but I would love to see it a little bit more in depth. I would like to see a little less repetitiveness in terms of some of the words being used. What was that one? There was one word that was used a lot, and like I could count it like in the same paragraph. It was like here, 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 and here. I cannot think of what that word was, but just using like a different synonym or finding a different way to like rephrase something, I think would be really great. What this author does really, really well though are fight scenes. And I gotta say, fight scenes are hard to write because you want to make sure that everybody's captivated, you understand what's happening, it's fast paced. She's really good at fight scenes. I think that for the more intimate scenes, there's room for improvement, but in terms of like the fantasy-esque, the world, the action, the fast pacing, she really, really shines in there, and I think that that's super great. So I'll definitely be reading the second book of this series, which I think is called Shadows of Discovery. Let me check. Yes, okay, it is Shadows of Discovery. However, similar to the Chestnut Spring series, I do not have the sequel of this book or of that other book, but I do have a very long TBR that I really need to get through. And so what I'll be reading next in the meantime while I'm waiting for these books to show up is I'm gonna read Beach Read by Emily Henry. I definitely want to read this book now that it's officially summertime as of yesterday, but when I'm recording this. So first day of summer is here, and this is the perfect book to start off the summer with. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this book. So if you're interested in watching me read Beach Read, Shadows of Discovery, the next book in the Chestnut Spring series, Brandon Sanderson, I'm definitely planning on picking up Mistborn pretty soon, but I have to get through my TBR first. So yeah, if you're interested in watching me read any of those books, definitely hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and turn on the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime a new video comes out. If you enjoyed this video and if you really, really enjoy the summertime as well and are happy that we're finally in the summertime, definitely hit the like button and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!